Hello, wonderful viewers. It's that time of the week where we bring you all the exclusive content on human rights. And as usual, we do this because of the love we have for humanity and the desire we have to ensure that your rights are protected and respected at all times. I'm Mama Nupe, and you're watching Human Rights Talk with Nupes. To better understand the topic we are going to discuss today, and the topic is domestic workers, I have with me two great people. I have with me Mr. Kwame Owusu Danso. He's a talk show host, morning talk show host of Pan African TV. He's also a Rwandan trained lawyer, so he's going to give us the legal perspective of whatever we're going to talk about. And we also have with us Miss Nashika Victoria Kwe. She's a lovely person. She's a media personality as well. She's the CEO of Navec Company Limited. It's a water company. Everything concerning water, drilling, whatever it is that you need, she's the CEO and she'll get you sorted. She's also the founder of Dacia Foundation. She's doing a lot for the underprivileged who do not have water and everywhere they are. She's utilizing all of her resources to be able to ensure those people are well taken care of. These are the great people I have with me today for us to have this discussion. We'll take a quick commercial break, and when we're back, we'll delve into the main issue. Stay tuned. Welcome back, Cherries Viewers. So, as usual, before we delve into the main discussion, we first look at the life and livingness segment. We talk about things that affect us on a daily basis. And today's topic for fun and livingness is flirting always cheating? When you're flirting with somebody, do you term it as cheating? That's what we are going to look at before we delve into the main issue. So, thankfully, I have a fine gentleman and a very pretty lady here to talk about that. So, tell us, guys, what is your view on flirting? First, let's talk about what flirting is and what we think about it. Ladies first.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
I believe that flirting is part of human nature.
Really?
Yes, it is.
Okay. How so?
No, because I could be just normal and probably my gesture will look like I'm flirting with you, but
Okay.
maybe I actually wasn't. So it's also a state of mind.
Okay.
And it also depends on who you are flirting with. And two, if you're a married man, I'm not expecting you to flirt with me. Well, there are other school of thought that says that flirting can be done to anyone anyways, but then it depends on how I'll take it in. If he's married, it depends on if he's flirting with me. It will depend on how I'll take it. Either I will allow it to affect me or I won't allow it to affect me. So I just think flirting is part of human nature, and it's actually no big deal.
Okay.
It's actually no big deal.
Let's hear what Kwame has to say to that.
I generally will share in the position taken by this beautiful lady. But before I even delve into the issue, I think that we need to talk about the drilling business.
Yeah. That's what she does.
Yeah.
She's in the male-dominated industry.
Fantastic. But most importantly, I think that, like she rightly opined, is a state of the mind. And it depends on what kind of definition you are giving to the gestures that you are giving to the next person. By and large, I think that most people flirt with people sometimes because they want attention. Sometimes they just want to get close and start a conversation, not necessarily wanting to get into bed. It's because mostly the understanding that people have or people give for people flirting with other people is because maybe they want to get into bed with you.
Yeah.
Exactly, but most often than not, it's not really the case.
Yes.
Sometimes people want to just get to know you
And sometimes
start
they
a
just-
conversation.
Exactly.
Perhaps leading to business practices and all of that. So I think generally I would associate myself with what has been expressed by Kwashi. Yeah.
You can call her Victoria.
Well, Vicky, yeah. Well, Victorias have, but generally that's just about it. And she spoke about married men and how sometimes they flirt with unmarried women.
Yeah.
It's a natural course. It's a natural course. The flow of events will determine what you would define as
exactly.
Because
Okay, so now let me come in with so now that we've defined what flirting is, or we've talked briefly about what flirting is it always cheating? Is flirting always cheating? So assuming Kwame is your partner, okay, and Kwame starts flirting with me, does that mean Kwame is cheating on you?
The question I'll put is, what is he looking for?
Who's flirting with me, but you do not know that.
Yes.
Right?
What is he deep inside him? What is he looking for?
So
That's why he's
he may
flirting
come
with you.
tell you that, okay, baby, there's nothing. She's just a friend.
Mm.
But for all you know, the ulterior motive could be genuine, and or that it could be that he really wants to get laid with me or something.
There is something attracting you to him.
Yes.
That is why he's flirting
Flirting
with you.
with me,
Yeah,
yeah.
because probably that day you were looking beautiful.
Yeah.
Or he thinks that, sometimes, let's not get this wrong. Sometimes you think I'm giving you the eye, but sister, maybe something is wrong with your dress.
No, okay, so now let me come in. Let me define
Yeah.
it well. So flirting here, it's not just about the first time you meet somebody and then you exchange certain gestures that show flirt. I'm talking about
Yeah.
flirting in the
Yeah.
terms
Yeah.
that
Okay.
you take it a step further,
Yeah.
you communicate, you call, you do so many things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So will you consider that as cheating?
There's been
Kwame?
times where, I mean, sometimes it moves beyond just
Yeah. The look.
facial expressions and eye
Yeah.
contact and all of that to
Yeah.
maybe,
Okay.
for instance, chatting with a
Chelsea,
person.
that's what I'm saying.
And
Not
it-
just chatting, you meet up
yeah,
sometimes. Yeah.
well, like I said, it depends on who is defining what flirting is. Because some people may define flirting as just mere chats. Others would say, well, you've taken a step further, to go and meet the person and for instance, have a drink with the person, etc. That would be cutting it too close to
Exactly.
relationships. Because you can simply just have normal conversations with people and not necessarily meet them. Because sometimes you just want to bring out the boy in you, or sometimes the woman wants to bring out the lady in them to understand whether or not they still got it.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily to move it to the point where it would find expression in the definition given to, for instance, relationships. So that is a different conversation.
Yeah.
And most importantly, it's also important to understand what the definition is, whether subjectively or objectively, because the person who is in it would define it differently. But the person who is without would also define it differently.
Differently.
Exactly.
Now, especially if I'm dating you
Yeah.
and then I'm flirting with her, you will be able to best tell what your definition
taking
or
it a step
understanding
further
exactly
or
is.
not. Yeah.
I may not think that what I'm having with her is flirting. So the definition of flirting will emanate from you,
Yeah.
given the
person who is
kind
being
of
affected.
Yeah.
exactly, given
Yeah.
the kind of conversations that we're
Yeah.
having. But that may not necessarily be flirting.
Yeah.
So it's a very tricky.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. But then I as a married man or as a married woman, I expect you to flirt with your partner, but not with a single lady or the single man, because I might, or the person might take it differently. Oh, he is interested in me, or she is, because that's our mindset.
Yeah.
So if it happens, so then we start the chatting, the communication, the meetups. Now then we start the immoral things, that will go on. So that's where you can tame it as cheating. But then yes, if you know you are married, you should know your limits when it comes to the other
Your
other sex.
relationship
Yes,
or your
yes,
friendship with
yes.
other
Especially
sexes.
because even there are some flirt which is more physical, because as a married woman, maybe I'm married and I have a male friend or a classmate, and every time we see each other, he hugs me warmly, he rubs his hand on me, and
That's
those-
taking the flirting to another
to,
level.
to another level. So if you know you are married, you should just know your limit,
limits.
or don't allow some things to start, so that it will just escalate.
But let's also not forget the fact that it's also true, even though there's no empirical basis to what I'm going to say, but it's also true that mostly people flirt with people because they want to get down with them.
Mostly.
Mostly.
Yeah.
Especially when you see a beautiful lady. When I got here and I saw you, you're very beautiful, but I was
Oh,
very
thank you.
reserved. I was not quick to comment on that. Because if you are quick to comment on that, then the person at the receiving end may
Immediately think
that this guy is trying
cheat on
to,
me.
So it's like I said, it's a very dicey, tricky, slippery ground that ought to be looked at from a very different perspective. Otherwise, you may get things wrong. So there's a friend of mine, who has been in this particular situation before.
Okay.
And even though in his mind, the kind of conversation that he was having with the other lady was not to lead to a certain relationship. But and also it's important that you also know who you are
Who
with,
you exactly?
because who you
Yeah.
are with has, I don't know how to put it, but also would define the kind of you know what would be described as flirting with
Flirting,
with the other party.
yeah.
Because genuinely the gentleman thought that, oh, it's just a normal chat, it's just
It's
something that's
harmless.
fleeting. It's not really something that must be taken seriously. But then your partner says, no,
No, yeah.
this thing that you're having is not just
Charlie,
flirting.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
actually getting somewhere.
Yeah.
And you know what women see, sometimes we
You
can't
You
see.
guys
don't,
don't
yeah.
say.
Now, there's also a point that ought to be made clearly, that mostly the men, and mostly I'm saying mostly advisedly, mostly the men do not really understand the kind of explanations given to certain actions that they take. Women have a third eye
Yeah,
in
mostly.
appreciating situations and circumstances. So what a woman would tell you, probably sometimes,
Yeah, it's
would
true.
be what the truth
Exactly,
is.
yeah.
So by and large, the point I'm trying to emphasize is that first, it depends on who you are with. Secondly, it depends on what you are doing that can be defined as flirting,
Yeah.
and whether or not your actions can now move beyond flirting to what we describe as relationships,
Yeah.
which
would then
of course
be
would be
you
the point
cheating.
where, yes, you're cheating.
All right. So, having listened to our guests, they've both told us what they think flirting is and at what point it is that it is cheating. But what I'm going to say is that we all do flirt sometimes, once in a while. And for me, when you flirt with somebody, it's not always the case of you wanting to start something with a person. It could be because you are both attracted to each other on something. You both have a mutual thing that concerns the two of you. So that's what first gets you attracted to each other. And after that is established, you probably go the step further to communicate, to talk about the thing. It could be that you just want to see if you are still fly, if you are still good looking. It could also be that you want to test the person. For me, I just do it because I want to know your mind. I want to know if this person likes me or not. So I may lead you on, if you start flirting with me, to know whether or not you are just doing it for a good reason or you are doing it because you want to hit on me.
Guys,
So
you should be careful. She might get into trouble.
so I just deliberately lead you on and flirt with you. But at that point, me doing that, I know that I'm not cheating. But should my partner stumble upon such a chat or such a thing, it's cheating to the person.
Yeah.
Because like Kwame rightly said, if my partner knows me and I'm having that kind of conversation with somebody, the moment, assuming you know what Kwame did to woo you, to get you.
Yeah.
So if you see Kwame's text or you
Yeah,
see,
exactly.
you would quickly know
That's
that
a
no,
very
this is
important
how
point.
it started. So no,
Yeah.
Kwame, this is not just flirting.
That's a
You
very
are trying to
important
do,
point. That's a very
yes,
important point.
you're trying to do something. So let's look at it from that angle.
But that's not to say, sometimes some of these things spices the relationship and the marriage.
Exactly.
No, honestly.
Flirting, I think,
Because-
spices the relationship.
because-
If only you
Let me
can be
explain.
strong
Not
enough.
flirting. Let me explain. Because sometimes I'm driving with my wife and I see a beautiful girl. I tell her, she's beautiful.
No, that's different. That's not flirting.
But what is your definition of flirting?
When you're flirting, you do it on the blind side of your partner.
Mostly.
Mostly. So
well,
that's what I wanted to.
Well,
yes.
I yield.
Good.
I yield.
When you're flirting, you do it on the blind side
yield.
of your
Yeah,
partner.
I
That's how
yield.
come we begin to ask
I
if
yield.
it can be termed as cheating. So just be careful when you are flirting with somebody. You know the motive for which you are doing it. If it is not to get laid with a person, just do it in a proper way. And then the moment you both start getting physical and you think you don't want it that way, I think you should just stop it, and then so you don't affect the person, your beloved or your wife or whoever it is that you are seriously in a relationship with. We bring the first segment to an end. We'll take a quick break, and then when we're back, we'll delve into the main topic for today, which is domestic workers, popularly called house helps. This show is powered by Nupe's Foundation and Family Affairs, and is also supported by Slaba G8. It's a catering services. You can find them on Facebook and on Instagram. If you need anything for all of your catering services, just contact them. Stay tuned. Welcome back. So before we went at the break, we told you the topic for today's discussion, which is domestic workers. Now, who are domestic workers and why are we even going to talk about domestic workers? Domestic, as a human rights show, we are looking at the rights of everybody. Domestic workers, house helps, equally have rights. Does the law take care of them? In Ghana, I would say no, but we wait for the legal person here to expatiate on that. But then, when you go to other countries, the Western world and all the world over, do they have rights and are their rights protected? Mostly, domestic workers are saying that they do most of the work in the households. They work for like 12 to 13, 14 hours in a day. Yes, they are the ones who get paid the minimum. Their salaries most of the time is not even up to the minimum wage in most countries. And also, their salaries are determined by the person who has engaged their services. Is this right? For me, I think because they do most of the work, they should be paid as much and even more than some formal sector work. We'll look at what our guests would have to say to that. So now, Kwame, what would you say? Who is a domestic worker? I explained this, but then I would want to have different views on who a domestic worker is.
Okay, so well, basically, let me just bring it to our level for a better understanding and
Yeah.
appreciation of it. So, a domestic worker is somebody who is more like a helper,
Yes.
somebody who serves, somebody who takes care of the home or the
Yeah.
household
Yeah.
of certain people, of everybody who can afford them.
Yes.
And most often than not, their services range from, for instance, taking care of the children, so as described as nannies,
Yeah.
cooking, cleaning, and all of that. And for special duties as well, sometimes most of them also are assigned special things to do,
Like-
in their homes. So, for instance, if let's say some of them are, for instance, very good in teaching,
Okay.
they move beyond the level of just
The household chores.
exactly
Okay.
to assisting the kids.
The kids
with-
when they get back from
yes,
school.
yes.
Okay. Nashka, what would you say?
I think we get it. We twist it, or we change it, or we combine what a nanny is, what a domestic worker is,
Yeah.
what a house help is,
Yeah.
what a maid is.
Yeah.
I think we've put in all together.
Under
And-
domestic workers.
yeah, under domestic work. So the thing is, if you're a domestic worker, what actually are you supposed to do? What is your work? What are your responsibilities? But you go somewhere and the same domestic worker is a nanny, is a teacher, helps with the children, is the cook. It's a whole lot. But I think if we say a domestic worker, they have the right to know what exactly their responsibility is at home.
In the house.
I have a friend who traveled to this one of the Arabian countries to be a maid, and they said a maid, but then it got to a point she was even supposed to wash the feet of her boss.
Wow.
So it's something I think other countries they have their own way of explaining, or they have their own way of going about it when they call you a domestic worker. But I just think that it's an extra help you need at home, but not the main help.
Okay, so coming in here, mostly what Victoria was talking about, domestic workers are supposed to come home. They are in different forms. A gardener is a domestic worker, a nanny is a domestic worker, the maid is a domestic worker,
Yeah.
the chef, they're all domestic workers. But what we find, if you go to the European world and, like I said, other parts of the world, you realize that it's differentiated. So one household can have different people, different domestic workers for different roles. But here, let's come back to Africa and here in Ghana. When you take a domestic worker, hardly do you see people have more than 3 domestic workers. The driver just drives, and mostly the drivers, they really do what they are supposed to do. Just drive or probably wash the cars. But aside the drivers, okay, the other domestic workers, what they do is that they do everything. They take care of the kids, they bath them, they cook, they clean, they do everything. And these are mostly what affects them. Because, like Victoria said, when they come, is it defined? Have you told them what exactly they are doing? No, you haven't. You just employ the person as a domestic worker.
Domestic worker.
And they tend to do everything
Everything.
in the house for how much? For very little. Okay, so let's go back to looking at what are some of the challenges they face?
Okay, so just a point of clarity.
Okay.
So Vicky made a point about the various segments,
Yeah.
or if you will, the elements that form
Comes under
the broader
domestic.
definition of who a domestic worker is. And I just want us to emphasize the fact that all those things that she mentioned are under the bigger picture of who a domestic
The
worker
worker
is.
is, yeah.
Yes, just that sometimes it has to be defined. So if this person is a domestic worker, which is at the head of the table, what are the legs? So the
Exactly.
legs are, for instance, being a nanny, being a
Yeah.
cook, chef,
Yeah.
like Riley mentioned. It is quite unfortunate that we find ourselves having to deal with the challenges that they face, and the challenges they face primarily are the foundational deficiencies that we have in our setup. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because for all the conversations that we've had regarding who a domestic worker is or who a domestic worker ought to be, you realize that the people who are supposed to be doing those works are people who are under the economic base. Like, if you look at the pyramid, they are the ones
Yeah.
who are the
Yeah.
downtrodden
Yeah.
people. So they don't have the means of survival. Now, if somebody went to, let's say, and mostly because I've done a lot of research, so mostly in Ghana, those people who help us with our activities in our homes are the ones from the northern part of Ghana, mostly.
Mostly.
Yeah.
You realize that the person does not have any means of survival.
Exactly.
So if the person comes in and tells you that I want you, for instance, to be, let's say, a cook, you get to the house and realize that, well, you have to help with taking care of the children, bathing them.
Washing.
If I'm going to work, you have to make sure that you take care of them. And the problem really is also that because the person doesn't have a place where he or she stays, they have to move in.
Yeah.
Now, when you move in, it's expected of you to go beyond your normal
Yeah.
Duties.
chef duties
Because
to
you're
making
being
sure
fed and
exactly
all that.
making sure that you take care of the home.
Yeah.
And that is where the problem really mostly starts. So you realize that the agreement initially was that I'm going to pay you 5 Ghana cedis
Uh-huh.
for you to come and cook.
Yes.
That is the agreement.
Yeah.
Now, because the person doesn't have the money, they don't even ask the very things that they are going to be doing. If you say cooking, what do you mean? If you say it's vague,
Yeah.
you understand? So they get to the house and realize that, the cooking also meant that you have to go to the market.
Market is
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and the cooking also
groceries,
the cooking also meant that after cooking you have to wash the
Wash
dishes.
yeah.
The cooking also meant that when you finish cooking you have to serve them.
Yeah.
So you realize that it's not properly defined, and that's why sometimes they face some of these challenges that they face. And I'm saying that it all finds its roots in the hardship that there exists in this country, and it's not something that we can flippantly ignore.
Yeah.
And so they are not properly taken care of, even though the law, because the Labor Act in 2003 does not specifically protect
Include them.
but there are some ingredients that appears to be one that can find expression in their protection.
Okay.
So generally, the understanding that I have and the challenge that they are facing is primarily as a result of the fact that, one, they don't have the means of survival, they have to survive. Two, people take advantage of them because they don't have the means of survival.
Exactly.
Three, they don't even have places to stay. Therefore, when you move in, you are obligated to take control absolutely over the activities that goes on in the household. And that includes sometimes even washing cars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how it is. But ideally, like Vicky rightly opined, there are supposed to be various
Yes.
segmentations of the work that ought to be done by these people,
Yeah.
so that when you walk into the house, there's already a driver, for instance. There's already a cook.
Yeah.
So what you need to do is just come and take care of the kids. Because at the end of the day, you do not have to mix your work with that which
the other
has to be done by the other person. But everything is boxed together because
You are probably living in the house with them.
So those are the challenges that they face. Also, they face a lot of, especially those people who are nannies. They're isolated, mostly. And I'll explain why. They're isolated because when they move in, their sole obligation is to make sure that they take care of the kids.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, hardly would you ever find nannies, the moving nannies, even walk out of the door.
Okay.
Hardly.
Okay.
So that we're in Ama's mansion.
Okay.
Then Amma has gone to work, right?
Uh-huh.
There's everything in the house because when she's coming from work, she makes sure she,
Yes.
buys
is
everything
out.
and then. So the nannies mostly hardly
Go out.
ever go out. So they're isolated. They don't, and they sacrifice their personal independence
Yeah.
for the good of the household. So they're isolated, and isolation in itself can kill you.
Can kill you, of course.
Yeah,
Depression.
Which is why I'm sure you've seen videos of people beating kids
Kids, yeah.
and babies and did I even say kids? Babies, and slapping them and stepping on them and all that. It has a psychological effect, because they're isolated. And when you are isolated, you feel ostracized.
It's true.
Now, also because of our socio-economic geographical setup, you realize that people also look down. People look down
Mostly.
on these
On
domestic
these people,
workers.
yeah.
Because obviously they buy food for them and they give them shelter
clothe
and all
them.
of that. So they look down on them. And when you look down on people, they tend to disrespect them.
For a
When
long
people
time.
exactly
Yeah.
when people feel disrespected, they are emboldened as a result of the fact that they are embittered
Yeah.
by the actions that you
Met out to them.
met out to them.
Yeah.
So therefore, they transfer that anger
on
in
the babies.
which is why sometimes we find some of these things. So the challenges are plethora. There are many of them that we can cite. But for the purposes of time and the fact that Vicky also has to make a
Some
quick
challenges.
intervention,
What,
I just have
what
to
are some of
leave
the
it there.
challenges you would?
I mean, just like he mentioned, sometimes we give them too much work.
Too much
As
work,
a nanny,
too much work. Too much
as a
work.
nanny, you're doing other things, and even you yourself that you've employed this person. From work, you want to come home to do that, to do this. Just imagine, because I wrote something on my Facebook page, my wall, that even a cook, if you're a woman and you're a cook, other people are cooking as professionals.
Of course.
And they are being paid.
Yeah.
If you clean, it's a job.
Yeah.
So it's for you to put all that you're supposed to do, and you're not doing it as a mother or as a house owner, and you're giving it to one person to do it. It's stressful. So I think one of the biggest challenges is that they are not paid well.
Yeah.
Because if I'm doing all these jobs, like 4 or 5 of them, and if you're supposed to pay me 50 cedis a week per each, I'm supposed to make a lot of money
at the end of the year.
But they don't pay them more.
Okay, so could it be because most of these domestic workers we're talking about do not have a place of their own, so they live in the house. So then, ordinarily, if I'm working for you, you may probably pay me 3,000, 1,000, 2,000 a month because, like your workers, let me just use your workers. Your workers do not live with you.
No.
Okay, they pick transport to come to your house to work, so you pay them. When you're paying them, you put all of that into consideration that they don't live here, they will pay rent, they have things to do, they will take transport to come to my house, they will feed themselves. So you take all of that into consideration. Could it be because these domestic workers, most of the time, live in our homes? So 1, they are not paying rent. 2, they don't buy water. 3, no electricity. 4, no means of transport to come to work. 5, you feed them. Could this be the reason why their salaries are so little?
I think that couldn't be far from right.
Yes, but yes, so if you look at it, I
It's
still
still
think
unfair.
it's still unfair.
Oh yes, we all agree.
Yes,
That
if you
is
look at
something
it,
we all
yeah.
agree on.
Yeah.
That their salary is quite terrible. It's low. It's below the minimum
But Amma,
wage.
you're talking about they live with me. Let's talk about that.
Okay.
How many of these people, workers, the nannies, the house help, how many of them have you seen them having air conditions in their room and then flash screens in their room and beautiful
Of course, they
bed?
don't have that.
Exactly. So we should stop this they are living with me thing, like, so they are not paying rent thing. What we normally, mostly I know, we give them is a small place. Or a small place that they sleep.
No,
And it's
no,
quite-
not
I
no.
won't even
That-
sleep there.
No. That
know.
no. That I refuse to agree to that. No, because
I mean that's not the general rule, but
That's
in
not the
most,
general
but
rule, but in most cases,
the
they
exception is
sleep
what
in.
you hold.
yeah, I'm
But
holding
the,
the exception.
but the general
The
principle
general-
is that
yes,
they are not
this-
properly taken care of.
Okay,
That's it.
and wherever it says that they are sleeping, because I know some house helps who complain that, oh, the whole house is probably eaten, fufu and I'm eating gari.
Yeah,
Or the whole
exactly.
Yes, that's different.
That's a different
the owner going the extreme or being mean. I don't want us to concentrate on people who are really mean, because that for me I think is a character trait. If you are mean, it's a character trait,
it is.
and it's got nothing to do with the fact that the person is a nanny. Okay, because a cook or whatever, a cook for humanitarian reasons. I don't cook and then you come and give me something else to eat. That is you being mean. So I don't want to talk. I don't want us to talk about people's, like I said, character traits. Let's talk about those that do it as this is the right thing. So you cook jollof, we all eat jollof. You have a room you sleep in because you're the one taking care of my kids. Okay, so you have a room. Of course, I may not give you a TV in your bedroom, whereas I have a TV in my bedroom. But then there's a TV down, like in the hall.
We all do what?
We all do watch. So of course, you may not get those luxuries. I will not put an air conditioner in your bedroom. I would put in my bedroom. But then there's a fan in your bedroom, which is something. Even if you were living all by yourself, you may probably not afford. So that is luxury to you. Okay,
Right.
so let's look at it from that side. From those type of people, do you think it's because they give all of this comfort? That is why.
Okay. I think it's sine qua non to appreciate the fact that in as much as we hold the view that once you are being properly taken care of, and I'm using your example as somebody who's properly being taken care
Yeah.
of, they shouldn't earn a certain salary.
So much.
But you see, but the point is that, and the emphasis must be made, that when you were bringing the person, there was a certain conversation that you had. There was a certain
Exactly.
representation that you made. The danger is that sometimes you make a certain representation to these people. You tell them that, okay, when you come to my house and you assist me do A, B, C, D, I'm going to pay you X, Y, Z. Now they get to the house, and then somehow, mostly it changes. The initial,
yes.
the initial conversation changes from, okay, well, now you're staying in my house, I'm feeding you, I'm clothing you, so the initial conversation we had regarding salary, I think we have to relook at it. But that person is in your house already.
No,
So
I don't
what
think
it is
that
is
happens.
Oh, it does.
Oh, it does.
It does.
It does. It
It
does.
does.
It does. It really
You
does.
said you pay me this, now
Yes.
you're changing
Either-
just because
yes.
I'm living
Yes.
in your house. And all
Okay.
Yes. Or there will be an additional workload that will be added to the
Yeah.
original agreement that you had.
that. Yeah.
Because you see, and that's how it is. Sometimes when they need you, they will come, they will say all the nice things, they will promise you all the niceties. But when you get to the house and
Yeah.
you start working, you realize that the treatment is different from that which was originally agreed upon between both parties. And that must not be overemphasized. I think that we must agree here and now that mostly people who have been moved from their homes to come and assist people in their households are not properly taken care of. Properly taken care of, not in the sense of giving them accommodation or shelter or food, but properly taken care of as in the sense, even the things they wear.
Okay.
Even the things they wear.
Yeah.
There are some very basic, fundamental,
Exactly.
rudimental things that would make people happy. Even the way you talk to them,
Oh, yeah.
the way you treat them.
Yeah.
I don't have domestic workers in my house, so to say, but I have, somebody who drives, the company car and comes around and helps. And they feel very well. He can just walk in and he feels like so welcome. And that is how you treat people. I always say that human beings are an extension of human beings.
Yeah.
Amandupe is an extension of Vicky, whether you like it or not. So whatever treatment it is that you are giving to Vicky, you must think of it as a treatment that you are giving to yourself.
Of course.
But sometimes don't you think we are kind of very protective of ourselves and our family?
So why go in for nannies then?
No, let me say, because if, for instance, if you're coming, I've had domestic workers. I still do anyways. But mine is, you're coming today. I used to live with them, but I stopped because what I do and I open up, they don't. At the end of the day, they rather backstab me. And there are others too that they have their own character.
Yes.
In a way, like I'm expecting you that this time you're supposed to be done with your work, and I'm not expecting you to be out talking to men maybe after 10. I'll lock my gate. You
Because
understand?
you wouldn't do that.
I wouldn't do that.
Exactly.
But some take advantage of your niceness or of your goodwill, and then they just change the situation.
Yeah.
So
I think that's the principle of familiarity. When people become too
exactly,
familiar,
yes.
they tend to do that.
Exactly.
And which is why sometimes
Exactly.
some of these masters
Exactly.
are very
They don't-
hostile because they
Uh-huh.
want you to know that, well, hey, that's your level.
Okay,
You know.
so in all, it's talking about the challenges. It's because some of these challenges they face it because as a result of the fact that they take advantage of the employers who are quite lenient and
Yeah.
very soft with them. And some of the challenges, like Kwame stated, is because of the isolation and all of that they face. We'll take a quick commercial break, and when we're back, we'll continue. This show is powered by Nupe's Foundation and Family Affairs, and it's also supported by Syllabite GH. It's a catering services. You can contact them on Facebook and on Instagram for all of your catering needs. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We were talking about the challenges before we went on the break. Now we look at the fact that are there laws in Ghana that protect domestic workers? Are there any laws on domestic workers and how they should be regulated and everything? Kwame, would you talk
Okay,
about that?
so like I said in my earlier submission, remember I made mention of the Labor Act 2003 that is supposed to be regulating all sectors in
Yeah.
terms of employment and all of that. So and labor works and all of that. Even though the law does not specifically spell out the specific provisions that ought to deal with domestic workers. There are some elements in the law, there's some provisions in the law that seeks to protect their interest.
Okay.
So, for instance, the minimum wage and all of that, the law actually advises, I'm just being careful choosing my advises that they ought to have the same minimum wage as every other person so that they don't feel discriminated
Okay.
against. So, it talks about that. It also obviously talks about the fact that they are at liberty to join any TUC of their choice.
Of course.
So they can be able to join trade unions and all of that. But those are what the law prescribes. But what are the realities?
And you see, like you rightly said, it's because there is no specific
Exactly.
law
Exactly.
that is protecting
we
them.
know that there's a certain domestic service policy.
Yeah.
I think it was in 2015 or
I'm not
I've
sure.
forgotten, but in one of these years, there was a conversation about how to sanitize the whole domestic working space and how to regulate the activities such that they would feel emboldened to be
Okay.
able to, do their work, go about their work in a much more respectable manner. Because oftentimes, like we have all agreed here, people take advantage of these people, and they take advantage of them because there's no formal contract that governs their operations.
Exactly.
Mostly people who even get into these homes are not educated.
Yeah. Mostly.
And so, yes,
illiterate.
so they don't even understand
What a
the
contract is.
requirements
Yeah.
that they need to ensure that they enter into a proper, workable, sustainable agreement that would ensure that they are protected in the households that they work in. So they are affected in various ways, in many forms. So the law is trying, but I think that as a country, we ought to do more than just focusing on the Labor Act to deal with this. It's because whether we like it or not, it has become a part of us.
It's become
And
a
this
part
is
of
an
us.
age-old profession.
Yes.
Because even in the UK, there's some definitions given to it as slavery, sort of. If you look at the UK and all of that, they call them domestic servants and all of that, master-serf relationship. That has been in existence. It's quite a perennial issue. So until we get a law that specifically deals with the operations of these people in these households, it will be practically impossible for them to properly enforce themselves and entrench themselves and enforce the laws whenever it is used against them. Because
Yeah.
people obviously hide behind the cloak
Yeah.
of the fact that there is no governing authority that regulates their activities, and therefore they go to the extra mile of taking advantage and subjugating these people and cowing them into submission.
Okay, so we would want to throw in an advice to the general public because there is no specific law. I would want you to tackle that,
Sure.
Victoria, because there is no specific law governing domestic workers. No law to protect them. When they encounter difficulties, are there any, like some authorities that they can run to for support and for assistance?
What I've realized is that there are agents now that
Agencies.
yes, that recruit people to for domestic purposes and all that. And I know that they go back to them if they have issues with where they are. And also, I think that's a step in the right direction. Although these agencies to take money,
Of course.
from the buy, I just think for the start, it is actually.
So
in the
I
right
think
direction.
what would happen is that for the general public, I think if you come down from the, I mean, not Nassau, so I know what I'm talking about. Most of them, like Kwame rightly said, come from the north and other rural areas. When you come down and you want to live with somebody or engage in any of these domestic, like, services, I don't think it's right for you to just go directly to live with somebody. I think you should enroll within one of these agencies, because in as much as the agency may use you to make money for themselves, at least they're protecting you. Should you live
but
in
Amma, then again, you see, we've alluded here about the challenge that they have.
yeah.
Now, if they go through agencies,
Yeah.
you know what comes with it. Sometimes they end up even not earning anything at all, like next to nothing.
Sometimes.
So mostly people will not listen to these advices that were given to them, because they know that if they went directly to the households, they would make
The money
more.
comes to them
Exactly, it comes
directly.
with fantastic.
Yeah,
It comes to them,
yeah.
them directly, as
Directly.
opposed to going through an agency who will take their commission. Even though yes, you'll be protected, but you see, let's encourage people, okay, to take advantage of the law. The Labor Commission is in existence to protect these persons and their interests. So I think it's important to also encourage people.
You see, Kwame, yes, we are going to encourage them to do that, but the difficulty comes in here because, like you rightly said, most of them are illiterates. Okay, most of them are illiterate, and they don't even know. Assuming somebody comes from my village, Kumdi, which is after Salaga, okay, about 40 minutes drive from Salaga. That's far. The person knows nothing, okay, about labor law, knows nothing about that. Okay, the person is probably coming to live with a distant relative.
Yeah, and mostly that's what
A
it is.
distant relative. Okay, so if the person is being abused at home or is going through any of these challenges, where is the person going to seek redress from?
Now, you even made a very important point. I hope I'm not talking too much, but you made a very important point about people living with their relatives. So even the question about agencies do not come in, because then there's a direct relationship. Now, also, one of the problems that I think we failed to identify from the beginning is that when these people are not treated fairly, because of their seeming family relationship, they tend not to even do anything about it at all. Because when you go and say, oh, Nasa will offer there, so what's your problem? Don't do anything about it. So I think that it's important that you brought it up for us to put a proper spotlight on it. But most importantly, for the people who are not going to stay with people because of family, who are going to stay with people,
Not
how am
based
I
on
gonna say?
family
Not based on
relationship.
family relationship. They have to make sure, like through your channel, now you're organizing, you're doing this program. I'm sure people would hear.
Yeah.
We must encourage them to ensure that they take full advantage of the laws that there exist. Because the only reason why people are failing to, as it were, do the right thing is because they know that people do not take advantage of the law. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yes, you are. But then, as you were talking, I was thinking about something. We've had situations where these domestic helpers also take more advantage of the people they live with,
Oh,
and by
definitely.
stealing from them,
course, of course.
you know, by stealing from them, and just I have an agreement with you that you work for me probably clean, and I can't find my child anywhere else, because you're going for my child from school, and then I can't find you too. So it's a dicey situation where I think we really need to look
So
at.
you see, that is why we need the laws,
Yes,
okay?
Yeah.
Because if the laws,
Yes.
if
There
there are
should be
laws
a
for them,
specific
okay,
law,
for them,
yeah.
that would be implemented. Your grievance, for instance, would be addressed because if you
Exactly.
employ the person, it goes through the right channel.
Uh-huh.
So everybody knows this is the person living
Yeah.
with Victoria.
Yeah.
Everybody knows this is the person responsible for Victoria. Let me just share a little story. I live with my brother. Okay, there was something that happened that he needed to go do something for me at a time, but he was unable to do it, and somebody else went to do it. So I was called and alerted that, okay, this is the person coming to do this for you. It's not your brother. What is the situation? So it made me alert to know that, okay, something is wrong.
Wrong,
Okay.
yeah.
So all I'm trying to say is that if we go through the right channels and laws are in place, and you know that, for instance, your nanny is in charge of your child, and you can't find your child, you can't find your nanny. We already know that somebody is kidnapping your child, and the only person you can hold accountable for is the nanny. So there and then, the person you look out for immediately is the person who is taking care of the child. Okay, so we need laws to
need
protect them, and if those laws are in place to protect them, we would be protected as well.
Yes, but then again, also, this is more like an extreme situation because, like I said, and I think that we need to really appreciate the facts. The facts are that in most cases, some of these people that are being brought to the household or the homes of these people are family and relatives.
Not really.
So mostly,
Mostly.
because yes, and as far as I know, most people are comfortable with their family relatives
More
or their
treating them
relatives
than
than an external person because they don't know them.
Well, unfortunately, I've never had a family relation,
Okay.
you know.
So maybe
stay
you are
with you.
unfortunate.
Okay.
Maybe you are unfortunate.
I know
And,
a lot.
or sometimes it's even that, okay, your friend is Amma.
Yeah.
So you tell Amma, oh, Chalama, I need somebody
Okay,
to help you.
From your
okay.
village.
Then Amma would
Some sort
tell
of
the
connection.
auntie in the north.
Yeah,
Tell
some
the auntie
sort of
that, oh,
connection.
we need, then the auntie will go and tell
Yes,
her
yes,
friend
mostly,
that, oh, your
yeah.
daughter. So
Yeah,
mostly it
there
has,
is a connection.
there's a trace, there's a connection. And which is why sometimes we make it so difficult for you to enforce some of these things. But I'm saying that if we can only find solace and comfort under the umbrella of the law, and know that, and if in fact, if the law is made to work, people who are going in for domestic workers will be minded.
Exactly. So
And,
the law is
and
important.
no, it's very, very
The law is
important
important.
because, and I'm saying the law is important so that they themselves will not act in a way that the law frowns upon.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying?
I get you.
Exactly. Because if you leave it to, for instance, the
Asian
person that Amma Nupe spoke to and brought to you, the person would not be forced to even go to court and enforce
Yeah.
the law because of that relationship. But if the law works, then the person who's even going in for the girl will be minded that, hey, there's a law, so I have to make sure that I take care of this girl very, very well. So that we'll not even get to the point where the person will be aggrieved and would want to now find solace in the law.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's been situations where I think there are other countries that they do have the law. I'm not very sure. I know that where the person I know went to work with, I think she will work for 5 days from this time to that time. She lives with them, and then she is not supposed to be doing something. She's supposed to be doing other things, and you know those countries too. They're kind of well paid. You know, like the maids and then domestic workers are
well paid, of
That is
course.
why they have mostly other like immigrants, you know, coming to their countries
to do
you know, to do that, finding ways and means to go to that kind of country to actually be a domestic
worker.
you know, worker because they are well paid. You know, this person, she just she had days off. I don't know here if they do it.
No, here hardly.
Yeah.
Aside those
You know.
who come and go, those who come
Yeah.
in and go,
Yeah.
yes, they have day offs. But those that live with people, a few have day offs where they can also go and visit their relatives
yeah.
and their families.
Yeah.
But mostly, if this is your home and this is where the only place that you are, you don't really have day offs.
That is so we have a problem. We
Yeah.
do have a big problem.
Now, if you permit me,
Yeah.
this was a story covered by Ghana Web.
Okay.
And this was on 26th of March 2011.
Okay.
Now, it seeks to suggest that there's a certain policy document on decent work for domestic workers that was going to be out soon.
Yes, yes.
Now, so it says that the policy aims at effectively managing and regulating the activities of stakeholders under terms and conditions, domestic abuse and minimum wage, among others. So, and it moves on to further state that, you know, it's going to be under the Employment and Social Welfare, and they made this known at a workshop. So it means that as a country, we understand and appreciate the problems that people are facing, and the fact that we're making a giant step
yeah.
towards ensuring that we resolve and ameliorate these challenges. However, This was in 2011
Yeah.
Until now,
till now.
no step has been
So
taken.
it depends on what we prioritize as a nation. And I feel that even as now we are having conversations about women empowerment and all of that, the people who are actually leading the fight to ensure equality must also begin to shift a little bit of their attention towards ensuring that people who work, in
Yes.
people's homes and houses are taken care of. Because even the statistics will tell you that majority of the people who work as domestic workers are women.
yeah.
And therefore, the conversation ought to be brought to the fore so that people would best appreciate that it is not so much about only dealing with empowerment at a certain level,
yeah.
but also ensuring that you elevate people
totally
who
agree
work
with
in
you.
certain domestic
I
homes to a
totally
point where they
agree
would also
with you.
feel empowered,
Yes.
to take on certain challenges for themselves. Now, if even we have the law not functioning properly, as we have all agreed, right? And we have people who are so much particular and interested in the welfare of these domestic workers who are largely women. People will be emboldened. At least they know that I know Vicky, I know Amanupe, who are advocates for the rights of
right,
domestic
yeah,
workers.
yeah,
And
yeah.
therefore, if I have any grievance whatsoever, at least I have a door that I could knock on.
Yeah.
Yes, and you are hearing it here. If you have any problem as a domestic worker, you can channel your grievances to this show, and then we will take it up for you.
Yes. Yeah. And I think you should
That
make
is why it's the human rights
yeah.
structure.
So you should make a conscious, concerted effort,
Yeah.
to ensure that there's a channel, because all that people sometimes people just want to talk.
It's true.
Sometimes people want to
Very
talk.
true.
People are dying inside,
Yeah.
but they cannot voice out or express themselves because of where they find themselves. Now, the only way they can free themselves and free their spirits is when they know that there's a certain channel or a medium through which they can express
can express
themselves
themselves.
without
And
having to
sometimes,
deal.
yeah, just to interject, sometimes it's not even to complain, but then they just need
need
somebody
someone
to
to
talk
talk to, exactly.
Okay, because you realize that there was this incidence of a young lady who amputated the
Oh,
arms
yes.
in Takrade. You heard that incident. I think that was just about 2 years ago or so. You see, like Kwame rightly said, the isolation is there, and also the treatment that is being meted out to them. Her reason was because the Oga of the house had an affair with her. She got pregnant, and the Oga of the house asked her to terminate her pregnancy
Hey,
after
that's
promising
a
her
different
yes,
beast,
after
right?
promising her so many things. I get pregnant, you tell me to terminate it. Yet you have a child with your wife. So out of anger, out of frustration, she didn't have anyone to talk to. So everything was eating her up.
Yeah,
I'm not
boiling
justifying
up,
her
yeah.
actions, okay? But then she was boiling up, like you are saying. So she had to do something. And what did she think of doing? Okay, let me transfer this anger onto this innocent child,
Yeah.
which is wrong. This would also be an advice to the domestic workers. When you're aggrieved with us, the ones who employed you, don't transfer it to the kids.
The children,
You can
yeah.
run away,
yeah.
you can do anything, but just leave the innocent child
You
out
actually
of it.
have the right to leave.
To live.
You have the right
Yeah.
to leave. Yes.
But sometimes they are treated to the point where they don't even have what it takes to leave the home. So they are more like imprisoned.
No, so what would you rather do?
Do.
Would you
Yeah.
rather steal
Yeah.
and run away in peace? Okay, steal something.
Than
I'm not
to
encouraging
go to
stealing.
jail.
Please don't get it wrong. I'm not encouraging stealing. All I'm saying is that
But I mean, it's just between the devil and the deep blue sea. Which one is
exactly. Okay. So instead of hurting the innocent child because the mother
leave.
worried you or the father disappointed you, just run away. Do something.
But Amma, you
Go.
remember in our earlier submissions, we spoke about, and I'm sure both myself and Vicky spoke about transferred anger.
Yes.
How the people are being treated in their homes, are mostly also being transferred to the children.
That is why you have an
Because-
avenue to have
exactly.
people to talk to.
So it's
So
just
when
a
you are
matter
being
of-
frustrated,
yeah.
you are being depressed based on the treatment
Yeah.
that is being meted out to you in the house, you can feel free to call us.
Yes.
Call us. We will get people to talk to you. If you need justice, we will take it up. We will do something for you. But don't transfer that anger on the innocent children. Some go to the extent of poisoning people.
Yes.
Please, don't do that. I don't
Yeah.
think you would be happy with yourself living with that for the rest of your life.
But Amma, if you'd also permit me, there's also an international dimension to
Okay.
these
Okay.
things.
Yes.
And it's important we address this because you mentioned agencies.
Yes.
Now, some of these agencies, they would come lie to these people and tell them that,
Oh,
we
yes.
have jobs
Yes,
for you
yes,
in
yes,
Dubai
yes,
and
yes, yes.
in Uzbekistan and
Yes,
in Pakistan and all
yes.
of that. And you realize that some of these domestic works that they promise them are not
It's not
what
what
it
they
is.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, it's important to also acknowledge the fact that recently I watched a very horrendous clip of a certain lady who was stabbed
Yeah. I
to
watched
death.
one. I
I think
watched
she was
one
from
that she was
Uganda
being.
also.
Yeah, she was being
And
beaten.
yeah, and the voice note that accompanied that video simply sought to explain that the lady went there as, like we are saying,
A
As
domestic.
a maid.
a maid. Right? No, sorry, she went there as a cook, so a
Okay.
chef.
Yes.
Now, upon
Normally.
getting into the home, right, she was now being asked to take care of the kids, wash, cook, and it was so much on her that at one point she was cooking. She was in the kitchen cooking when these women were at the hall having fun. Now they forgot that they had kids, and one of the kids crossed the road and was knocked down by a car,
Oh.
and the kid died. Right? This was the girl who was in the kitchen cooking for you.
And
You
they are
who
rather
were at
holding
the
her
hall.
accountable for
Now
that.
all that they needed to do, all that they told the lady was, "We're also going to kill you." And indeed, they stabbed her and slit her throat. So some of these agencies and all the people who promise women and beautiful ladies heaven on earth in other countries must also begin to be they must be also regulated
Regulated.
by the law,
Yeah.
so that in the event that they come for Madam A and send the person to Dubai, the law would operate such that people would know exactly where they are taking them
Exactly.
and exactly when they are returning, exactly how much they are earning.
earning.
Sometimes they even go there, they seize their passports.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
true.
That's what they do. They say
So
that
you
they
become a
see them-
slave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see, so we must look at these issues and deal with it holistically and realize that there are people out there who are suffocating, who cannot breathe, whose feet have been put to the fire of irresponsibility by certain people who have decided that they want to help them. So it's a very
There are others too. They say, "Oh, you're going to be a cook," not knowing that some of these agencies are actually selling you out to be
Yeah,
a
that's human
prostitute.
trafficking. That's even
You know,
another topic altogether.
yes, to
Human
be,
trafficking, which
but
is very,
yet
very
they'll say
serious.
you're going to be a domestic
domestic
worker.
worker,
So
Yeah, yeah.
it's a big issue on its own.
One of the things I've also realized is that for fear of victimization and then the fear that they will lose their job, most of these domestic workers are unable to report their employers to the right authorities. What do you think they can do? Okay, because if it is through a relation, okay, the person is scared of reporting to people and then they will sit back in the village and talk about her, she's lazy, like you see, for fear of victimization, they don't talk about some of these things. They just keep it all in and then it eats them up. Do you get it? So what can we do to keep this social culture that is like this culture trait that is in us as people?
the law simply must be made to work.
Yeah, yeah.
If the laws work, I think that people will be emboldened enough.
Do you know why it's a problem? And then for me sometimes I weep for Ghana because you are talking about the law being the law working right. Let's look at it this way. Even here, where there are laws which are being implemented, which are being enforced on rape, okay, when a family relative rapes a child and you
Oh,
take it
yeah.
up to court, you are being victimized.
Yeah.
And or your wafa,
Yeah.
and or your okay, so what I mean by oyo wafa, it's like this is your uncle, this is your
Yeah.
relative. Why are you taking the person? Can't you solve this amicably at home? Even people are in marriages are going so bad, they want to divorce. But then, okay, if you are divorcing, why are you going to court?
Yeah.
Why don't you settle it
That's
amicably?
yeah.
Do you get it? So what you are saying, I know that. I know that. But I think let's talk to people, let's talk to ourselves, individuals. Let's work on ourselves, our thought process, this cultural thing that we have in victimizing people. There are lots of people that are being raped, they can't even come out
No,
to
they
say
can't.
it because
Even
they'll
if
be
they
victimized.
do, they are being victimized.
Do you get it, Kwame? So the laws may be in place. That's why I gave you example of laws on rape. Okay, there are laws. These are laws that are being implemented, but people are victimized. So for this, let's talk to people, our culture. What can we do about it as individuals? Victoria.
We can't change our culture, but the only thing I can say is you have to know what you want. You have to, number one, you have to know what you want. Number two, you have to love yourself more to know that this is not right
Okay.
and I'm going to say it, I'm going to talk about
It
it.
doesn't
I
matter
don't,
the
it doesn't
level of
matter, and
victimization.
trust me, you get someone to support
Listen
you.
to you. Yeah.
We were trained not to ask questions. That is the
Unfortunately,
problem.
yeah.
But I'm so glad that the generation that is coming, our children, they are asking questions. And because we realize it's a big mistake, we are not training them to be like us. We are
Yeah.
training them to be a bit vocal, be confident, be bold, and ask questions. And that's what I'm very, very, very happy about. But then you should know what you want. If I'm going to be your driver, what is my responsibility? This is my responsibility. If you're giving me extra, then I think I deserve some extra money. It's not because maybe I'm greedy, but I think you're not going according to our agreement. So you should know what you want and you should love yourself more because at the end of the day, it is just you.
All right.
If you're not there, your owner or your boss will go for another person.
Yeah.
So you should love yourself more. And I believe that we've extended that thing to what we call now trolling.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's really affecting us
Even on social media.
even on social media. It's affecting so many people. It's bringing a lot of people down in life. And we the three of us, I'm sure you are not going to allow yourself for someone to intimidate you because
Not at all.
probably you're educated
Not at all.
and you know your right. So with this show will help people to know their right from today onwards.
All right. We'll take a quick commercial. We are running out of time. We'll take a quick commercial break and when we're back, we'll round off. Look at welcome back, Cherry's viewers. Please tell us, have you ever heard of any legal case? And also, as a legal person, have you ever heard of any case involving a domestic worker who is probably having an issue against an employer for more treatment? Any case, any legal case?
To be honest, I haven't.
No. Have you ever heard of
No,
anything?
no.
So why is that?
Well, I mean, I think we've said it all.
Exactly.
The fact that people do not know what they want, like she rightly said, the fact that people are not emboldened to take a bigger step to addressing the issues that confronts them, the fact that the laws are not properly working,
Okay.
the fact that people even don't know that there are some provisions in the laws that can best deal with their problems.
Situation.
So we just need more avenues and platforms to be able to communicate to people for them to appreciate, that they can find some comfort.
Okay, since we are running out
in-
of
in-
time,
in the
in
law.
a minute, you both give some advice to domestic workers.
Oh.
Gentlemen first or ladies first? Ladies first.
No, I think that if someone is a domestic worker and the person lives with you, treat the person as a human. And you working, you should also know what you want and do what you're supposed to. If there is going to be more for you to do, just speak to the person. There should be an agreement before action. Don't change
I
it.
like that word. Agreement before action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Kwame, what would you?
Agreement before action.
That's the same advice you would give.
I love it. But most importantly, also, I think that the gender activists,
Yeah.
the feminists, the gender activists, feminists like myself, I think that we have a bigger responsibility.
Yeah.
If statistically we are now being apprised with the
Yeah.
fact that most of them are women, then I think we need to do more.
Yeah.
We need to encourage them.
Yeah.
We need to organize seminars. We need to organize symposiums. We need to organize. We need to do things. We need to essentially make it a heralding topic so that people would get to appreciate that whenever, wherever, whoever, is the whichever.
So let me
there's
come in. Let me
always
just
somebody to-
on air. Kwame Osudan, so the morning talk show host of Pan African TV, and Victoria Nashika, the CEO of Nave Company Limited. They are coming together with Nupe's Foundation to organize a show for these domestic workers because most of the time this program we are organizing, for instance, they may not be able to watch it
Exactly.
because it's aired on YouTube and then on Facebook. So we are going to work on something to organize a program, a talk show somewhere where we would invite people to come and then we can give them this advice really go into
I think
details.
that would be awesome.
You are in, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm
You are
in,
in.
but you should know it's
Awesome.
not going to be at one place. We'll have
Yeah,
to
we'll
hop.
have to be, different places.
Yeah.
We move from
Yeah.
different places
Awesome.
as time goes on. So, to round it up, my advice to domestic workers is like my guest rightly said, please learn to speak up. Speak up for your own rights. Don't keep so many things in you. You are the one living with the person and you are the one suffering. And what most of you domestic workers do not know is that the employers need you more than you need them. They just brainwash you into thinking that you need them most, but you don't. The truth is, they need you more. So if you have an agreement with somebody and the person is not going according to the agreement, you are free to speak up. Even if it means you have to move from different employers to different employers, do that until your right is protected, until you are respected and given what is rightly due you. And when you face some challenges, please feel free. You can call this line if you don't have other authorities to talk to. You can call us on this show. We will rise up and do something to protect you or also ensure that whatever it is that you're complaining about is well taken care of. And speak up to other people. Do not feel ashamed or do not think that you will lose your job or whatever it is that may be intimidating you. Feel free to speak up at all times because you are human and you deserve to be treated right. That's all for today. Thank you so much, my guests, for coming on the show and helping discuss this topic. As usual, do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel, turn on your notifications, and stay up to date with all the exclusive content on human rights. Leave a comment. Let's get interactive. Let's get to know what your problems are, and let's see how best we can all come together to ensure those problems are well taken care of. You can also follow all of our social media handles. This show was powered by Nupe's Foundation and Family Affairs, and it's also supported by Slaba GH. It's a catering services that deals in catering. For all your catering needs, please contact them on Facebook and on Instagram, and you would be sorted. I'm Mama Nupe, and you just watch Human Rights Talk with Nupe. Thank you.